Key squares. Key squares are what we call those squares whose occupation by the king assures victory, regardless of whose turn it is to move. In this position, the d5 square on which the king now stands is not a key square. White to move does not win. The key squares are c6, d6 and e6. Black to move must retreat his king, allowing the enemy king onto one of the key squares. With white to move, the position is drawn, since he cannot move to any key square. Pawn endgames. What is opposition? Opposition is the state of two kings standing on the same file with one square separating them. To get the opposition means to achieve this standing of the kings one square apart with the opponent to move. If black to play, white has the opposition, and if it's white to play, black has the opposition. Let us return to the first diagram, where we see the simplest case of the opposition. With white to move, there is no win. King c5 king c7 or king e5 king e7 draw because white can make no progress. Black to move loses, because he must allow the enemy king onto one of the key squares, king c7 king e6, or king e7 king c6. Up next we have mined squares. Sometimes, it is a single pair of squares that correspond. I refer to such squares as being mined. Do not be the first to step on a mined square, or you'll be blown up. You must either first allow your opponent to step on the mined square, or move forward, accurately avoiding it. Here are two quite typical examples of mined squares. Here we have what I call untouchable pawns. c4 and b6 are called mined squares. White king shuttles between b3, c3 and d3, while the black king goes from c7 to b7 to a7, neither of them able to attack the pawn. The squares c4 and b6 are mined. In this next example, white wins by forcing his opponent to go to the mined square first. King f6 king b5, king e7 king c5 king e6 win. Passive defense is hopeless too. King f6 king c7, king e7 king c8, king capture d6. The king captures the d6 pawn while simultaneously controlling the key square for the d5 pawn. The next endgame theme is zugzwang. Zugzwang is a situation in which each possible move worsens one's position. Zugzwang is one of the most important endgame tools. It is applicable everywhere. In elementary endgames such as king and pawn versus king or king and rook versus king. In this position, white to play. White played a spectacular move rook to h6, putting black in zugzwang. Pawn capture h6 pawn to g7 checkmate.